Before we get into the video, could everyone please subscribe to my channel? Thank you so much. My husband offered me $10 billion to divorce him. I took the money without hesitation and ran away. A month later, lying in my current boyfriend's arms, I received his call. "Wendy, come back now. I'll share half of my assets with you." I heard him and chuckled distinctly. "Who cares about your money? My husband earns more in a day than you do in a year." When I found out Ken's crush had returned to the country, I sat up in bed, startled, my eyes narrowing at the phone. I've been waiting so long for this day. Finally, my good days are coming. Sure enough, that night I received a call from Ken. He sounded calm on the phone, as if divorce wasn't a big deal at all. Jessica had returned. Without beating around the bush, she quickly got to the point. I softly replied, "I've already drafted the divorce agreement. After the divorce, I'll give you $10 billion, and the house you're living in now will also be yours. Consider it compensation." After hearing his words, I pretended to be sad, humming a couple of lines, but my mouth was already stretched to my ears. "Ken, I don't want to divorce." Inside, I thought to myself, he's so generous, I don't even need to negotiate. After saying that, I sniffed a couple of times, pretending to be very upset. "Have you forgotten our premarital agreement?" His voice sounded a bit impatient, and I rolled my eyes fiercely. "I'm sorry, Ken, I understand." After getting my confirmation, Ken hung up. 10 minutes later, Ken's assistant sent me an electronic version of the divorce agreement. I carefully read it, made sure there were no unfavorable conditions, and replied with an okay. The next morning, before Ken could reach out to me, I had already dressed up and arrived at his company. As soon as I entered the company, the receptionist, who used to get excited when she saw me, surprisingly ignored me this time. I took the elevator to the top floor where Ken's office was located. When the elevator doors opened, I walked in. As expected, Ken hadn't arrived yet, but I wasn't in a hurry. I found a seat and started playing with my phone. 2 minutes later, a sharp and sarcastic voice reached my ears. "Oh no, Miss Wendy, what are you doing here?" I looked up. It was Ken's secretary, Nancy. I heard from others that Nancy was a little admirer of Ken, who had come straight to work as his secretary after returning from studying abroad. She never liked me, thought I wasn't good enough for Ken. "Can I come to my husband's company?" I crossed my arms and glanced at her. She chuckled. "Husband? Do you think you're Ken's wife? Everyone knows Ken married you just to please his family, and now that's it. Ken must have had enough of you and wants a divorce." I suddenly sat up from the couch, laughed, and startled Nancy. "Don't think I don't know what you're thinking. Do you really think Ken will like you after divorcing me? At least I have slept in the same bed as Ken. You probably haven't even seen him without his clothes on." She listened to me. Her face grew darker, ready to curse. "You Wendy, you fox." Before Nancy could finish her foul language, Ken happened to push the door open. I quickly switched to an innocent look, eagerly gazing at Ken. "Ken." Nancy also heard the door opening behind her and froze in place. "Boss?" Ken frowned. I took the opportunity to add fuel to the fire. "Ken, your secretary says she should be your other half. She says I'm just a stray dog not worthy of you." "You're slandering me, boss." "I didn't." Nancy was furious. If Ken hadn't been there, I thought she might have jumped up to hit me. "Go to HR and get your salary." Nancy was once again stupefied, with tears already rolling in her eyes. "Boss, don't make me say it a second time." Nancy looked at me viciously. I hid behind Ken and made a silly face. I must admit this was the most pleasing time I had seen Ken in all the years I had known him. Nancy ran out crying and Ken turned to look at me. I immediately wiped off the arrogance I had just displayed. "Why are you here so early?" he asked me as he walked into his office, and I followed behind. "Honestly, I was afraid you'd wait too long. In fact, I was just afraid he'd change his mind. The lawyer will be here at 9, wait a while." After Ken finished speaking, he didn't pay me any more attention. He went to his desk and got to work. I nodded with a smile, sitting on the sofa, feeling frustrated inside. Why is this lawyer so slow? Your boss starts work at 8, yet you show up at 9? Sitting on the sofa, I checked my phone every 2 minutes, every second feeling like agony. Finally, at 8:59, the door to Ken's office was pushed open. I excitedly stood up, but it wasn't the lawyer who walked in, it was Jessica. "Oh, it's Jessica," I said. The lawyer followed closely behind. Seeing him felt like a lifesaver, so I ran up to him, pulled out the divorce agreement, and slammed it on Ken's desk. "I'll sign first." "Then I was about to write my name when Jessica stopped me. "Wendy, I never wanted to ruin your relationship. You don't have to do this. Ken and I are just friends." I was stunned. What was she talking about? After signing my name, I ignored Jessica and immediately pushed the divorce agreement towards Ken. I watched intently as he held the pen in his hand. I clenched my fist, smiling as I waited for Ken to sign. After a moment of hesitation, he glanced at me and signed his name. Thank you, Ken. I won't disturb your alone time anymore. I wish you both happiness. I grabbed my bag, took a few steps, and then turned back. Ken, can you transfer the money as soon as possible? I blinked at him. He furrowed his brow and finally said, it will be in your account by tomorrow. Exiting Ken's office, I stood at the gate, taking a deep breath. I was Wendy, 24 years old, with a 10 billion bank balance. Back at the villa, I dialed the familiar number after a few seconds of nervous anticipation. The call was answered. Finish playing? Robert's lazy voice came through the phone. I raised an eyebrow and replied softly, yeah. Then come home. I'll pick you up in 5 minutes. I changed into a new outfit leisurely. When I came out of the villa, Robert was already waiting at the door. He leaned lazily against the car, lost in thought. I quietly approached him, tapped his shoulder lightly, and said, Robert. He turned to look at me. Raising an eyebrow, I playfully stuck out my tongue at him, then opened the car door and hopped in. He reluctantly slid into the driver's seat and started the car. I couldn't use my phone due to motion sickness, so I subconsciously turned on the car's music. To my surprise, it was the original version of Take Me Hand, a song I used to loop. I blinked in surprise. How did he have this song? I remember how hard it was to find the original version after it was remade. You said the songs I listened to weren't good, but why is this song playing in the car? He remained silent for a while before awkwardly saying, just random. I don't drive this car often. I couldn't help but find his response amusing. I leaned closer to him and said, Robert, you're lying. He glanced at me, then quickly looked away, coughing awkwardly. Forget it. If you don't like it, I'll turn it off. As he reached for the music controls, I stopped his hand, saying I like it. How can I not? You should know by now. I smiled knowingly and remained silent. When I woke up, I found myself in front of a standalone villa with a garden. It was time to get off, so I wiped my mouth and prepared to exit the car. Looking at the villa, my pupils dilated in surprise. Why did you bring me here? I pulled my clothes and sat up. Aren't you going to explain to Mom what you've been doing for the past 2 years? Robert's tone was calm. I rolled my eyes distinctly. You and Mom know exactly what I've been up to. Without another word, the car entered the garden and stopped steadily at the villa's entrance. Get out, I sighed and opened the car door. Before I could react, the door had already opened. My mom ran excitedly out, followed by Robert's dad. I was caught off guard by my mom's embrace, and Robert's dad came over to pat my head. Wendy, you finally decided to come back. I was at a loss, so I just blushed and nodded. My mom let go of me, her eyes red, and Robert's dad pulled her into his arms, patting her back and comforting her. Standing there, I couldn't help but wonder if all those years of fighting were in vain. Why am I just standing here when Andy has cooked? Let's go eat. Robert, who had parked the car, walked over to me with the keys. My mom nodded repeatedly and was led away by Robert's dad. I tugged on Robert's sleeve, hesitated for a moment, and finally asked the question that had been bothering me for so long. Robert, are you really okay with my mom marrying your dad? He chuckled and looked down at me, saying, Wendy, it seems like you're the only one who has had a problem with this marriage from the beginning. Suddenly, my mind drifted back to 2 years ago. Robert, who had been my boyfriend for 4 years, was suddenly taken away from me 2 years ago. One day, my mom told me out of the blue that she was getting married. Before I could ask who she was marrying, Robert's dad appeared in my less than 10 square meter room. He came up to me, pulled out a document, and I couldn't believe my eyes, almost passing out from shock. Robert's dad and my mom got married, and it was him pursuing my mom relentlessly for as long as Robert and I had been together. My mom apologized to me with a guilty look, but I pushed them both out of the house in a fit of madness that night. My mom sat by my bedside with red eyes, trying to console me all night, telling me everything about her and Robert's dad. I didn't sleep a wink all night, and it wasn't until the early morning hours that I, with red eyes, muttered, "Let me cool off," and then I ran off to New York alone. Stop dawdling, let's go eat. My thoughts were interrupted as Robert lightly tapped my head. Coming to my senses, I followed his lead. At the dinner table, none of us said a word. Finally, it was Robert's dad who spoke first. Wendy, there's a company party in 2 days. You and Robert should go and have some fun. I immediately nodded with a mouthful of pasta. Robert chuckled and teased, "Why don't you bring your mom along?" Robert's dad gave him a stern look and said, "Your mom and I are going on vacation in Hawaii tomorrow, no time." I stared in amazement at their conversation, unable to swallow the pasta in my mouth. After chewing on it for a while, their happy family of 3 seemed like a slap in the face to me from 2 years ago, no doubt throwing in a couple of jabs at me. In a standby mode, I aimlessly got through the next 2 days and was dragged by Robert to the party. I thought it would just be like the previous parties he took me to, boring small talk and flattery. I wanted to follow Robert in a dull manner, but the appearance of a familiar figure completely snapped me out of my stupor. "I'm sorry, Robert, it was not intentional." A familiar voice sounded, and when I came to my senses, Robert's gray suit was already stained red. The woman who spilled the wine immediately started rubbing his chest with her hands, muttering continuously, "Sorry, Robert, let me wipe it clean for you." I looked down and saw the woman's face, and the next moment, my right hand uncontrollably pushed her to the ground. It was Jessica again. "Wendy!" The woman sat on the ground, staring at me in disbelief. I was also taken aback. If Jessica is here, then is that Ken? "Jessica, what's wrong?" Sure enough, Ken arrived in a hurry and helped Jessica up from the ground. After checking that she wasn't hurt, he looked up. The moment he saw me, he furrowed his brows instantly. "Wendy? What are you doing here?" I was startled by his question and involuntarily glanced at Robert. He raised an eyebrow and then pulled me into his arms. "Ken, let me introduce you. This is my girlfriend, Wendy." The faint scent of gardenias appeared in the air around Robert, and being held by him gave me a sudden boost of confidence. As soon as Ken heard Robert's words, his brows furrowed even deeper, and he finally sneered, saying, "Girlfriend? Whatever scheme you have in mind, now we're done. Don't you lay a hand on Jessica." Upon hearing Ken's words, I laughed. "Ken, have you gone crazy? It was your little girlfriend who spilled wine on me." I paused, looked at Robert, locked eyes for a moment, and continued, "And I'm going to help him clean it up." When Jessica, shielded by Ken, heard this, tears immediately welled up in her eyes as she explained sadly, "I really accidentally spilled wine on Robert and just wanted to help clean it up. I didn't mean to do it. I know you might resent me for taking Ken away, but we really are just..." I was stunned by Jessica's words, utterly shocked. In the end, I couldn't take it anymore and snapped back at her. Jessica was left speechless by my retort. After a second of confusion, a waterfall of tears struck, startling me. Finally, Ken couldn't bear it and comforted Jessica for a few moments before turning to me. "Wendy, don't go too far." I was initially going to confront him together, but Robert pulled me behind him and spoke first. "Ken, who's more out of line now? You should know without me saying it. Do you think Jessica did nothing wrong and should be allowed to freely rub her hands back and forth on my chest?" Listening to Robert, I secretly felt delighted that he was so good at arguing and didn't let me lose at all. Ken's face turned pale and he stammered for a long time before squeezing out a sentence. "Even if it's Jessica's fault, she should apologize to Jessica." Robert snorted coldly. "She shouldn't have pushed. She should have slapped her and asked why would she still come over when she saw someone by my side? Is Jessica really blind or pretending to be blind?" I was behind Robert, my mouth already stretched to my ears. Ken might have realized he was in the wrong. So he didn't continue speaking, just took Jessica's hand and turned to leave. Seeing this, I couldn't let them leave just like that, so I stood up and shouted, "Ken, keep an eye on your girlfriend. Make sure she doesn't stick to someone else." Ken stopped in response, turned around and gave me a cold stare. Startled, I quickly hid behind Robert again. Even though someone had my back, who knows if Ken, if he really got mad, would come and kick me? Robert wasn't afraid at all, meeting his gaze. I saw Ken's lips tremble several times, but in the end, he didn't say a word. After Ken left, the crowd dispersed from the scene. A few flamboyantly dressed girls approached, batting their eyelashes and getting close to me. "You must be Robert's sister, right? We haven't seen you before, and now that we have, you're even more beautiful than the rumors say." The girl in the purple fishtail dress was the first to speak. She came closer to me and naturally took my hand in hers. Frowning, I remembered that when I had just entered with Robert, her eyes were the widest. I ignored her and tugged at Robert's sleeve, gesturing with my eyes. Catching on, he pushed aside the girls who had surrounded me. "Sorry, Wendy is not used to this kind of occasion, so I'll take her away first." With that, he took my hand and led me away from the onlookers' gaze. As we sat in the car, I was so excited I couldn't help but stomp my feet. Robert looked at me helplessly. "Are you happy now?" I covered my mouth, nodding vigorously. Once back home, I kicked off my 8-centimeter heels and collapsed on the bed, like mud, falling asleep instantly. In a daze, I heard Robert call my name. I grumbled in response before closing my eyes again. Then I saw Robert carrying a basin of warm water. In the next moment, a warm towel enveloped my face. I luxuriated in rubbing my face against the towel, listening to his somewhat aggrieved voice. To think that even in your second marriage you could find such a good man like me. You're really lucky. The next morning, the tight evening gown had been replaced with an unfamiliar pink pajama. I rubbed my eyes, planning to check the time on my phone. But instead of the time, I saw a jaw-dropping hot search topic: Wendy's seamless transition to her brother after divorce. I clicked on the report, confirming that the Wendy mention was me, and pinched my thigh hard a couple of times. What was this nonsense? Were they deliberately trying to mess with me? Scrolling down further, the comments were all full of criticism. I chuckled in exasperation, carefully reading the report and finding it completely off base. Sighing, I guessed that Robert must have already known about this, so I set down my phone, got up and got ready for the day. 10 minutes later, sitting downstairs having breakfast, my phone kept buzzing incessantly. I raised my phone weirdly, and a new hot search topic now topped the list. Wendy was once romantically involved with her brother during college. Just 10 minutes, and my old story with Robert was dug up. The expression on my face as I looked at the phone piqued the curiosity of the woman next to me. I simply lifted my phone to her. "Auntie, what do you think?" The auntie turned shyly. "You can't believe these kinds of rumors." After breakfast, I hailed a cab intending to find Robert at his company. Upon arriving at the building, I scanned the entire company from bottom to top, left to right. This is even bigger than Ken's company. Like an acre? I wrapped my coat tightly, knowing Robert was rich, but how did no one tell me he was this rich? Entering the company, the receptionist noticed my searching gaze and immediately walked over with a welcoming smile. "Who are you looking for?" Seeing her, I embarrassingly said, "Hi, is Robert upstairs right now?" Hearing Robert's name, her smile deepened. "Who are you? Could you please tell me your name so I can call Robert to inquire?" I listened dumbfoundedly to her words, and after I said my name, I felt for the first time the real difference between people. When I was first married to Ken, the first time I went to his company to find him, I was stopped at the door by the receptionist. Upon learning that I was there to see Ken, she rolled her eyes almost into the heavens, mumbling nonstop about having seen many women like me, that if I wanted to hook up with him, Ken would have to wait until his next life. In the end, I made more than 10 calls to Ken before he hurried downstairs to escort me upstairs. "Robert is expecting you. You can take the special elevator on the right and just go in, and I'll help you operate it." I nodded, thanked her, and jogged into the elevator, marveling at its size, big enough to fit a bed. Arriving at Robert's office, I was completely impressed. Finally, I got the feeling of overlooking the entire city. After a couple of coughs from Robert, I snapped back to reality. He gestured towards the computer screen, signaling me to come over. I obediently ran to his side, and a familiar face appeared on the large computer screen. He opened a video, and the computer played the orchestrated crying of a woman. "I am Mr. Ken's secretary. I experienced the most brutal bullying in my life a couple of days ago. It was from Ken's ex-wife, Miss Wendy. I made a statement that she didn't like, and she humiliated me in every possible way, even ordering Ken to fire me or else she wouldn't agree to divorce him. Everyone knew that Ken and Wendy's marriage was a joke." I opened my mouth several times to speak, but the absurdity in the video's content silenced me. Robert, watching my reaction, chuckled and bent over slightly. I gritted my teeth and punched him. "You're still laughing? How can you just watch your sister being smeared like this?" He looked up, trying to suppress his laughter. "Do you know her? Do you know how this rumor came about?" I pondered for a while and then affirmed, "This woman is Nancy, Ken's former secretary. But I'm sure she didn't do this. She wouldn't spread rumors even if you gave her 100 chances. Plus, she wouldn't make a trending topic." Robert patted my head and chuckled indulgently. "Pretty clever." I looked at him and asked, "Have you found out the truth?" Robert took a couple of steps forward, ignoring my question. I grinned mischievously, knowing he must have already known everything. I approached him, grabbed his arm, and coquettishly urged him, "If you already know, aren't you going to help your little darling? Can you bear seeing her being defamed by these villains?" Once again, Robert was amused by my antics. He sat in front of the computer and switched to another page. Several chat records appeared on the screen, showing a conversation between a username, Little White Rabbit, and DS Entertainment. Just post it like this, I have edited it. Miss Jessica, are you sure this information is real and valid? What if it's not? This is the real deal. Do you think the information I gave you is fake? No, Miss Jessica, it's just that this time we're involving Robert. You know our small workshop can't afford to mess with these big shots. What are you afraid of? This is a genuine piece of news. What can they do to counter it? Besides, it's not like she's the only one with connections. Haven't you forgotten the people behind me? Stop babbling. Get it done and I'll give you an extra 100 grand. I knew it was that woman, Jessica. Saying that, my teeth almost itched with anger, imagining Jessica probably laughing about it somewhere. The situation escalated rapidly. Workplace bullying by Wendy quickly shot up to the top of the trending searches. Online users also dragged Jessica into the fray. They learned about Jessica's traumatic experience. I intercepted, running to her posts and sympathizing with her, feeling sorry she had been overshadowed by me for so many years, even though she seemed so in love with Ken. Just as I opened Jessica's blog, she updated, "Thank you for your concern, I'm fine. Ken and I are doing well now." Below was a photo of them holding hands. Immediately, her comments section flooded with sympathy. I was close to rolling my eyes to the heavens. Robert leaned over, glancing at my phone. I turned to ask him, "Guess what Jessica's next move will be?" Robert raised an eyebrow, probably aiming to take your place. Confused, I asked, "What position? Does she want to be your sister too?" Robert's expression darkened and he turned away from me. Realizing I spoke out of turn, I lowered my head and glanced at my phone. After refreshing the page, the first thing that popped up was the statement issued by Robert's company. Further matters have been handed over to lawyers for handling. My eyes widened. When I checked back on the top trending news that accused me of spreading rumors, the publishing company had already deleted the article and issued an apology statement. In an instant, the tables had turned. Online users expressed feeling like they witnessed a world war in just a few minutes. Some more sober-minded people began urging everyone to stay calm. At that moment, Robert picked up his coat, saying, "Let's go, we might miss the fun." Robert drove fast. 10 minutes later, we arrived at the airport. As the boarding announcement sounded at the airport, Robert nonchalantly sat beside me. I was wondering what he was up to when a woman appeared in front of me. Nancy. When I saw her, my brain quickly deduced everything before Robert spoke. Who's gonna speak first? You or me? In a disdainful tone, Robert silenced Nancy with just a glance. She stuttered. "It's all Jessica. She suddenly approached me last night, asking me to record a video for her. I thought she would only show it to Ken to make him feel sorry for her." I frowned and then? She hesitated for a moment, glanced at Robert and said, "I was also confused. She gave me some money. My mom got sick and I lost my job for my own reasons, so I..." She paused for a moment, realizing her explanation wasn't convincing me. Then she continued, "I can prove that Jessica is slandering you. When do I really got confused? I'm not the kind of person to make things difficult for others, and I can't stand seeing a girl cry. Do you understand what I need now?" She nodded, and I smiled satisfactorily. "Do you need me to help you clarify things directly?" Nancy timidly asked. I stood up, shook my head with a meaningful smile and said, "No, that would be too easy for her." With Nancy's help, I arranged to meet Jessica in a cafe. After she gave me an okay gesture, I nodded and shook the phone in my hand. Separated from Nancy, I took Robert's car keys and said, "Now it's just the three of us. Robert, you can go busy yourself." I started the car, and Robert quickly opened the car door and got in, saying, "Your business is my business." I smiled, didn't want to argue with him further, and drove away. Arriving downstairs at Ken's company, I walked in confidently, and the receptionist, who initially wanted to mock me, immediately shut her mouth upon seeing Robert behind me. Perhaps because Robert was with me, I walked smoothly into Ken's office without any hindrance. Pushing the door open, I saw Ken resting with his eyes closed. He looked up as he heard me enter. Before he could say anything, my phone rang. Perfect timing. I answered the call and gestured silently to Ken to keep quiet if he wanted to know what his girlfriend had done. Ken frowned but remained silent as the voice on the other end of the line became clear. It was Nancy's voice. "Why did the newspaper delete the post?" she asked. "Probably because someone threatened them on Robert's side." "It's useless. I told you not to be afraid of them," Jessica's sharp voice replied. Ken's eyes widened. "So what should we do now, Jessica? What if this implicates us?" Jessica sneered. "Are you stupid, Nancy? You still have your part in this, remember? Just accuse Wendy of bullying you, and no matter who comes after you, stick to this story. Even if Robert's company steps in, they won't be able to vindicate her." After Nancy responded a couple of times, she continued, "Jessica, what about me?" There was the sound of footsteps on the other end of the phone, and after a few seconds, Jessica lowered her voice. "As for you, Nancy, I'll go cry to Ken. Make him find you a better job. Since Ken likes me, he'll listen to whatever I say. Then I'll have him find you a rich and handsome husband. How about that?" With a loud click, Ken snatched the phone and slammed it on the desk. After hanging up the call, I was startled and instinctively leaned into Robert's embrace. I didn't expect Jessica to say such things. I thought she at least genuinely liked Ken. "You don't have to vent your anger on Wendy. I remember your recent stocks took a big hit. If you don't want to lose everything, you should know what to do now." Robert looked at him, and Ken's face turned pale with a hint of redness around his eyes. "I'm sorry, I will handle this." Ken slumped into his chair, rubbed his forehead vigorously, and spoke slowly. I blinked my eyes. "I believe you will too. After all, even if we don't have a relationship, we still have some family ties." As I finished speaking, Robert lightly pinched my waist. I grabbed Robert's hand, threw him a flirtatious look, and said, "Ken, we'll be on our way now. I look forward to seeing your statement tonight." After leaving Ken's company, I received a call from Nancy. She apologized once again and promised to come clean that evening. I nodded, hung up the phone, and breathed a sigh of relief. I guess this should make things somewhat even. As the night fell, Nancy released the video she promised. I watched it in its entirety. Her logic was indeed clear, and the evidence was solid. Almost simultaneously, Ken's company issued an apology statement. With that, the tide had completely turned. Jessica's post was bombarded in the comments section. I read the comments from netizens and grinned from ear to ear. After scrolling for a while, a social media star suddenly revealed another bombshell. Jessica is the real master of deception. 2 years ago, she stole my then-boyfriend, who happened to be a second-generation rich kid. A month ago, my ex-boyfriend's overseas company announced bankruptcy. I was convinced Jessica would find a new target. She single-handedly destroyed a marriage and spread rumors that the original wife was a homewrecker. It's just unbelievable. I was stunned in front of the screen. 2 hours later, more and more people who claimed to know Jessica started speaking out, all blaming her for her immoral actions. Call came in. I already knew who it was, but I still answered. "Wendy, how dare you treat me like this? How dare you?" I chuckled as she kept on angrily berating me, with the honking of car horns in the background creating a noisy environment. "Is this because you were kicked out by your beloved Ken?" She hesitated for a moment, then went on a mad rant. "It's all your fault. Everything should have been mine. Ken and Robert should have been mine. It's all your fault. You took everything away from me." I held the phone away from my ear slightly. Her voice was getting too loud. 2 minutes later, her voice gradually subsided, indicating she was tired of cursing. So I said harshly into the phone, "Jessica, nothing belongs to you. You have nothing to do with anything from start to finish. You're only here because you have some feelings for Ken. Without him, you're nothing. Can't you figure out your own worth? Still thinking Robert will like you? Maybe you should try to get the money back from Nancy and use it to fix your brain." Without giving her a chance to retort, I hung up. A few seconds later, the phone rang again. I impatiently picked up and saw it was my mom calling. I immediately stopped myself from saying anything as soon as I realized it was her on the line. My mom hesitated for a moment before continuing. "Wendy, just found out what happened today. It's all because your uncle insisted on taking me diving. Are you okay? I'm coming back now." I couldn't help but chuckle at my mom's concern. "Mom, didn't you see them all apologizing to me? Why bother coming back?" After some hesitation, my mom asked, "But are you injured?" No, Mom. You just enjoy yourself, and besides, I still have Robert, right? Almost without thinking, I blurted out Robert's name. My mom, not understanding, gave me a long reminder and then hung up. The room returned to silence. I sat on the edge of the bed, memories of time spent with Robert involuntarily flooding my mind, including those indescribable moments. Blushing, I crawled under the covers. What am I thinking? He's like a brother now. How could I possibly fall for my brother? The door was pushed open, and there stood Robert, casually dressed in a bath towel. We're not blood related, so why can't we be together? He said, a warm feeling spreading through me just hearing his voice. The next day after breakfast, I wandered aimlessly around the villa, occasionally checking my phone for Jessica's mocking comments. Eventually, I got bored, asked the housekeeper for a set of keys, and decided to go for a drive nearby. After half an hour of driving, I found myself parked outside the company building. I looked at my reflection in the mirror and whispered to myself, "How did you know I was thinking of Robert?" After parking the car, I walked into the company, where the receptionist greeted me with a smile. She pointed towards the lounge area, saying there was a girl waiting for me for a long time. I followed her finger and saw a familiar figure charging straight. I remember the moment vividly. Jessica was shouting my name and holding a knife. My pupils dilated in shock, and I ran as fast as I could. The receptionist, sensing trouble, panicked and called security. Jessica, brandishing the knife, ran swiftly after me. Since I had just gone out for a drive, I was wearing slippers and slipped, falling heavily to the ground. Seeing this, Jessica laughed hysterically. She slowed her pace, walking towards me step by step, shouting, "Wendy, it's all your fault. You stole my boyfriend, you slut. I'll make you pay." Just as she was about to reach me, I noticed an asterisk not far away. With a bang, I knocked Jessica unconscious, and the knife fell beside me. I breathed heavily, all emotions breaking loose at the sight of Robert rushing out of the elevator. I threw myself into his arms, tears flowing uncontrollably. The belated security guard, realizing the situation, called the police and dragged Jessica aside. Robert patted my back gently, assuring me it was over. Feeling utterly wronged, all the words I wanted to say got stuck in my throat. Finally, I blurted out something that even I found absurd. "Pick up that asterisk from me. I want to take it home as a keepsake." I heard from Jessica again a month later. She had gone insane in the asylum. Meanwhile, I was discussing wedding plans with Robert. While choosing a wedding dress, I received a call. No one answered despite my repeated hellos. I heard a noise and was about to hang up, thinking it was a prank call. Finally, a voice came from the other end. "Wendy, I miss you." Startled when I confirmed it was Ken, I replied curiously. "And then?" With a teary tone, he continued, "If you're willing to give me another chance, I can split half of the company assets with you." I burst out laughing. "I might have considered that in the past, but my husband earns more in a day than you do in a year." With that, I hung up and decisively blocked that number. Robert heard the conversation and pulled back the curtain mischievously. I winked at him and said, "Robert, if I marry you, can I have half of your company's assets?" Leaning against the wall, he chuckled, "I am yours, along with all the assets."